My name is Teri Vela. I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm going to share with you some poems that are about the city, about Spring Valley, where I grew up, and also poems that were written here and are about my experience being a human being here in the county. This first poem is called I Love LV. And it's full of imagery from all around what I consider the city, even as far north as Cactus Springs. And it's meant to overwhelm, so there's a lot of information. But if you recognize any of the locales, that's the point. I love LV. I could easily wear this city. Would pick all my favorite street murals for gauzy scarves. Godzilla cryptic spiral, broken fingers on a full moon. Crazy horse etched on your retina. Sekhmet's temple I take as my bodice. No doors or windows to hold me in. Soft stucco spackled with fire offerings. Mermaid and Mother Mary lining my breast pockets. The jackrabbits that leap away I catch for leggings. Their wooden feet and cactus teeth shield me from desert wind. The red rock mountains make my skirt. La Madre springs her trickling trim. Red sands, red bands, red banded earth on all my limbs. Herds of bighorn sheep my shoes, spiral locked in sandstone skin. Remember that big owl hooting in the basin? She was my wig that summer moon. Catching frog legs in splotchy mud, circling echoes in canyon bloom. Coyotes loping round my fingers, canine ghosts among the dust. Their memory's direction both facing, dissipating into rust. For finishing touches I'd choose La Concha, as my nun's habit, conch shell, crown. The Moulin Rouge my necklace, waves of neon love until I drown. Deep in Binion's H's, or horseshoes, feathery gold inside my hair. Those old camels from Sahara, each a glove, makes a pair. But where would I go dressed like this? No other American city will take me. Maybe that's why it's always been Las Vegas. Nothing more real or fake than she. This next poem is called Spring Valley. Because I grew up in the Spring Valley neighborhood. You and I, are tied, bound up in roller skating, pizza parties, and backyard mud pies. Some part of me is that time forever, tattered dog ear, happy from use. Our first crush was the same boy. We watched him throw his shoes on the roof of a portable at school, and then the school called his mother. That's love. Jurassic Park and Sailor Moon, tender secrets told to whispering hands. Flavors and fast food, so much of this was my only childhood, my best one. We wanted to defy gravity, dodge bullets, and be dinosaurs. Actually, everyone wanted to be Dr. Ellie Sattler, but someone had to be the dinosaur. My grandfather confused you for me at my cousin's high school graduation. We had a burping and farting contest that lasted so long, I don't know how high nor how far we got. Now that we are gone, I feel such a sense of enormity for our capacity to pretend. This next poem is called Waterloo, and it is about motherhood. I just gave birth to my first child on September 23rd, so she is a month old now, and this is largely about the experience of entering motherhood. It begins with a quote from the poet Jericho Brown. "The opposite of rape is understanding." Jericho Brown, Duplex. I begin as a foreign body. It is a form of mothering to hurt yourself rather than others. And so, is it the mother that is both the fire and the burned? It is an illusion to believe I must continuously sacrifice myself to gain something. Where is the beginning of the relationship we share? Which action, that bashert connection between loving and loved? It amazes me to silence, and so maybe it is bashert, fated, soul-mated, routed at Waterloo. The relationship between mammal mother and her young. Bashert how the body accommodates. Bashert how it changes, prepares to open. The bones separate and the muscles loosen, and a great space is made of light and empty sun. My partner asks me questions like, did you ever picture yourself pregnant? And I think when he asks it that way, he understands. I used to be afraid of childhood because mine had a big redacted slash through it, ages 4 to 5. Those torn pages out of my first diary, the only memory I have of telling anyone what happened. Hold a secret in the hem of your diagram. Vantage point crooked like a lost bird's eye, pitching forward in the amniotic sea. I reach for what is there this way. Love is permission, and I almost have it. I see glimpses of our birth coming on, hers and mine, curling smoke, these creaking wrists in the mirror. From my childhood abuse to my body, this is where pregnancy has brought me. Not death, not this death. My daughter's birth is rebirth to me. This next poem is titled Tentatively, the Kanye West Test. It is about mental illness, mental health, and my family here in the Valley and their interaction with the system at large, and a little bit about the title character, Kanye West. The Kanye West Test. 1. Anger isn't the most useful weapon, but I yelled at him. Don't want this delusion to be so wrong-headed. Remember that this has happened before? Remember at dinner when Alex asked Dad if family meals made him gay? Was it the orange juice? And Dad got angry at such nonsense. And I wondered what Alex really meant. 2. My partner says I can't judge the genius of Kanye West, or lack thereof, because all I see is my family's dragging ghost. The soft face of a man, somewhere in between science and magic. 3. I imagine the precipitant event. I unsmear the storm across him. I unvacate his eyes. I untug the cork and fled him back inside. A good madness lines the nest of his ghost. A ghost so solid on the skyline, concrete as my grief. Tell me, spirit, where the beginning was, so I can lay flowers there. No grief so small, no grief so small, no grief so small. This next poem is called Las Vegas, Nevada, 2019, and it is for Byron Lee Williams. How much radiation is proof We are not attracted by our lives. The weight of a butterfly was converted into energy at Hiroshima. 700 milligrams of mass. 1. The delicate lattice work of lungs inside a rib cage exist in breath. Bones inhale and exhale throughout the body. The skull at the fontanelle shifts in use. The bones of the foot as they hop, push, land, and fall. When exactly does the conversion begin? Byron Lee Williams had 2 children, a daughter and a stepson. Black children gold like paper. He was family before his conversion to suspect. 2. Each delicate art dying as the sun rose. Cameras turned off in the dark. A hand panting into the muscles of this back, pressing into these ribs, collapsing each lung. How to handle that radiating body heat, that valence of brimming adrenaline, aimed at a man choking in the dust. The weight of 2 uniformed men converted into 7 officers on the scene, turned their remains into bullets swallowed in the breeze. 3. A voice left only as a recording. This next poem follows on a little bit, subject matter wise, and is just my very shocked sensory impression. And it's called On the Day Before What Should Have Been Breonna Taylor's 27th Birthday. On the day before what should have been Breonna Taylor's 27th birthday, a single white senator holds up movement of federal anti-lynching legislation. Rand Paul. Cory Booker stands up, speaks, reminds those listening that this country's white inhabitants used to lynch pregnant black women and rip their babies from their bellies. I retch. The baby in my belly shifts, grows. Minutes click on. There are so few words for what we live on, what we host. The weight kicks out from under me. I choke. This next poem is called I Hate Anne Sexton, and is not really about hate at all, or even Anne Sexton. She's a famous poet that wrestled with mental health issues and has her own history trauma to tell. And I'm talking to her, and specifically to a poem of hers within this. Her poem is called The Ambition Bird, and so this is sort of a response to Anne Sexton's The Ambition Bird. I hate Anne Sexton. I hate Anne Sexton. I hate her the way I hate my own shortcomings, which is more sad and frightened than it is hate. The way I recognize a blind spot, and yet cannot see inside it. Stupid immortality box. Like one of those Russian RBMK reactors in size and scale. Who do I think I am? I feel it like nuclear fallout, undetected in odd excitement, drunk on attention and the naming of memory. It is this sort of humiliating miracle, that she could be both bird and bludgeon, raw, mothering power and poisonous flares. The world does not have us without this. Think of all that had to go wrong at just the right time, of how singular the opening maw of human destruction aimed, shot, and found target. Along the weight of mechanical rending, I hoped to find some intricate science to explain the perfection of this conclusion. Instead lives only cheap and flimsy instability. This is the ancestry of form. My impulse is to rip it all out. Can we start over with rich, black soil? Her children, them, me. But it is this compulsion that got us here. It is that old act of erasing that must wait. With my free hands, I place one over my sarcophagus heart. This is the bird. This is the box. There is enough inside this one. Thank you. This next poem is called Eje, and it is about my experience going to Colombia. I am half Colombian and half Mexican, and going to a country that has my heritage but also is completely foreign to me. This poem, along with a few other poems, have some Spanish in it, and the point is to be bewildering, to feel the way I felt going to a place that I didn't know, but that was also connected to home. So, Eje. The barking dogs kept my partner awake again. He was so mad, he went outside to yell at the animals. And when he returned, he cursed, "I hate the fucking country." We haven't had a quiet night in the campo since we've been here. My fresh red blood on the dotted line returns the body back to self. I wonder what I am going back to. My dad said he felt culture shock when he first arrived in the US. Age 9, overwhelmed in sense. Incense. Incienso. In cien sombras. In cien sombras, the hawk cries awake. Curly-headed extranjero, gooey-faced prey. We rise to the sky, looking for cues. I am well past 9 years, but still shocked into silence. I left Las Vegas at a sprint, but on the other side, we find ourselves no simpler, only more recursive, more expansive. The plane landing, the birds calling, the soil darkening, luciérnagas I've never seen before, tarantulas and wild dogs bathing in the river, men who stare and tell women, "You rule by a centimeter patch of fur." I don't know the conversion off the top of my head, but I've been chopping off theirs for so much less said. So how is it that I arrive, smile, and say nothing? I don't really speak the language seems like an excuse. The answer could be in the long division. Divide generations of Latinxes by a casino skyline. Add a sensation of after to the wagging tail of before. Let the remainder pass away. While in the country, my family told the story of a maid being raped repeatedly over time and having many children. Many years later, one of these children exhibited the same predatory instincts towards women. When asked what he wanted to eat, the boy child answered, "La patas de la niña," the legs of the girl, some girl in the story who was the punchline. When I didn't laugh, my mother explained to me that I was supposed to laugh. "I don't think I understand," I said, "because I don't hear a joke. I don't hear a joke. Here we all are. Solve for X." Thank you. This next poem is called Animal Cruelty, and it is also about interacting with the systems in Las Vegas, the criminal justice system, the police. And trigger warning, because it is meant to be offensive. It is meant to compare violence against people, against animals, and to question sort of where we fit within these interactions. So, animal cruelty. Two cops stand in front of the water cooler at work, talking about the weirdest cases of animal violence they've ever encountered. I can tell they're performing for the listener, talking about how upset it made them. And my mind runs to this client who hung her dog from a tree. She is a legal permanent resident, so my job is to figure out if this is a crime worthy of deportation. It was a relief to find the answer rested at no. But plenty of people inside this kaleidoscope were personally disgusted by the facts and would love to make an example out of this woman for her crime. The police report suggests she is mentally ill. She took a noose and strung the dog up, held the rope, and hid behind a tree so she wouldn't have to watch the dog struggle. I want you to look at that, because at least then you'll have a reaction, rather than if she were deported. My cousin asked me what happens now after her brother was declared incompetent by a court and ordered to enter into mental health treatment. Nothing, I answered. Nothing happens. No one will take him to the doctor or ask him off the street. He attacked his sister because he's afraid of everything, and if we call the cops, they might kill him. That's how much we trust them. But nothing ever happens. I'm coming to the end of my reading. This will be the penultimate poem. It is called Things Bad Begun. In my next life, I want to come back as a jaguar and maul a man for sport. A hospital gurney, symbol of infirmary, with beeping, sounds of life. The room is on fire because I made it so. I am embarrassed of my own rising temperature. My mother is here, churchgoers, and this dying figurehead. I have daggers in hand. My skin is filled with scorpions. I am touching strangers, but I have no idea what this does to them. People sing all around out of tune, hymns and misplaced solace. I am not listening to what my mouth says. I am too busy building this fire over the bed. The contents of the bed are scorpion too, or once were. All that remains now is wailing sand. How did I become one if I never touched him? The connection seems unavoidably blood-tied. My anger is black cat, red mouth, white fangs again, and I make sure his peace is kept from any heaven. I am godless right here, except for my ever-consuming fury. My wrath makes me a shield most days, a shield more dexterous than daggers. But at night, I dream of hunting. This last poem is called Black But Loving, and it also has some Spanish in it and is about intergenerational trauma and interaction within different generations of a family. 1. When my grandfather died, his descendants were joyous, relieved, in pools of grateful tears. It's hard to explain the first meal we ate as a family after his funeral. The briefest flash mob broke out in my grandma's kitchen. Bewildering to find this freedom on their faces. 2. You know the song verse that starts, Todos me dicen el negro, llorona, negro pero cariñoso. My grandfather called one of my aunts his negrita. I think he was the only one that found it endearing, because try as she might to tell jokes on his behalf, she wears weights that he tied on. All of his children do. 3. In the last years of his life, he asked my mother for money. When she told him no, he called her ungrateful, desagradecida, and said she wouldn't be here without him. And I suppose, grandfather, you are right. Locked-in syndrome terror, thank you. Brawls etched in the deepest diving bell heart, compression tape, suppressed self. It's down there somewhere, in a safe. Thank you. 4. She doesn't speak of it, so I pluck notes out of the air, study and wait, listening for those tones she lets slip, wisping tarot cards fallen on the floor. I see the archetypes: torture, grief, defeat, shame, survival, triumph, high priestess. And I am so grateful you sent them to me. 5. Because the thing is, grandfather, I wanted you to die so many times the way I watched you die. Wanted the sandstorm to settle into the shoreline. Wanted the snake to slither away from the tree. Negro pero cariñoso, abuelo. Negro pero cariñoso a mí. Thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing my reading. Again, I am Teri Vela. You can find me on Instagram at Teri Vela, all one word, or on Twitter at No Shade Just Tea, all one word, the letter T, so No Shade Just Tea, and other social media platforms. Thank you. Some of these poems are going to be published to the 7th Wave magazine. So that's another online resource you can check out. The 7th Wave magazine is a nonprofit magazine that will be publishing a few of the poems I read today. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the book festival.